This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, April 1st, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Crews in Baltimore are getting ready to start clearing wreckage of the collapsed Key Bridge. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Reaction on the Sunday shows of the Trump-endorsed Bible.
All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many.
I'm John Stolnis.
Bump in pay for Golden State fast food workers.
At least 7 minors injured in a mass shooting in Indianapolis over the weekend.
We all have to take a collective look in the mirror.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, investors back at it this morning. The first quarter for stocks, wow, it was strong. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A portion of California's Pacific Coast Highway is shut down, the reason why, and a famous Las Vegas hotel closing its doors for good. All ahead on America in the Morning. Staging for work to begin on clearing the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore began over the weekend, with a goal of getting a small section reopened for shipping as the Port of Baltimore remains blocked after that cargo ship smashed into the bridge, bringing the entire structure into the Patapsco River. Correspondent Sagar Meghani reports the salvage operation will be time-consuming.
This work will not just take weeks. We have a very long road ahead of us. We understand that, and we're preparing.
Crews in Baltimore are getting ready to start clearing wreckage of the collapsed Key Bridge.
The north sections of the Key Bridge are going to be cut up and removed. This will eventually allow us to open up a temporary restricted channel that will help us to get more vessels in the water around the site of the collapse.
Maryland Governor Wes Moore says it's the first step in what will be a very long process.
We cannot rebuild the bridge until we have cleared the debris.
A crane has now appeared on site, one of 2 that'll be used to clear tons of twisted metal and concrete debris, plus the ship that hit the bridge.
Step 1 of that is we're going to clear the debris from the channel. Step 2 is we're going to remove the vessel. And step 3 is remove the rest of the bridge debris from the waterway.
Coast Guard Rear Admiral Shannon Gilreath says it's part of a multi-step plan toward the top objective, reopening Baltimore's port.
And we got the cranes on their way to help us do that. But before we can actually engage in lifting, we've got to complete the assessment process of the bridge and the pieces of the bridge are in the water so that we can figure out how to cut the bridge into the right size pieces so that we can actually lift them with the crane.
Moore says this will not happen fast, but it will happen.
Maryland's economy and Maryland's workers rely on us to move quickly. But that's not just Maryland. The nation's economy and the nation's workers are requiring us to move quickly. The best minds in the world are here right now in Baltimore.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Donald Trump discusses his newest venture, selling a specialty Bible, and reacted angrily to President Biden's Easter Sunday events at the White House. Our John Stolnis is in Washington.
Last week, Trump posted a more than 3-minute video on Truth Social touting his partnership with musician Lee Greenwood on a $60 Bible that contains many of America's founding documents.
All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book.
Democratic Senator and pastor Raphael Warnock told CNN Trump's Bible sale is akin to blasphemy.
This is what we expect from the former president. If he's not selling us steaks, he's selling us a school whose degree is not worth the paper that it's written on. If he's not selling us a school, he's selling us sneakers, and now he's trying to sell the scriptures. At the end of the day, I think he's trying to sell the American people a bill of goods.
Saturday Night Live had fun with Trump's Bible sale.
And it could be yours for the high price of $60. But I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this for the glory of God and for pandering and mostly for money.
While Lee Greenwood defended the Bible on Newsmax.
See how beautiful this Bible is. Check that out. It's leather.
Republican Congressman Mike Turner telling CBS's Face the Nation he's more worried about the Easter messages coming out of the White House.
I think I'm more concerned about the White House restricting the ability of children to put religious symbols on Easter egg Easter eggs for the Easter egg roll at the White House.
On Friday, President Biden's communication team sent out a notice proclaiming March 31st Transgender Day of Visibility, calling on all Americans to lift up the lives and voices of transgender people throughout our nation. This proclamation is scheduled for every March 31st, but this year, that date also fell on Easter Sunday. The Trump campaign and House Speaker Mike Johnson led the Republican outcry, calling on the White House to, quote, issue an apology to the millions of Catholics and Christians across America who believe Sunday is for one celebration only, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, New York prosecutors say they believe Trump violated a gag order against him in his hush money trial when he assailed the judge's daughter and made a false claim about her on social media. Trump is also taking heat from some Republicans over his call for someone to challenge Republican Congresswoman Laurel Lee of Florida after Lee supported her governor Ron DeSantis in the primary rather than Trump. John Stolnis, Washington.
Management's outlook in light of more pay for fast food workers when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. It's a forecast that's snow fooling this April 1st. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rinde.
We are now entering a new month, and despite the turn of the calendar into April, we are still looking at snow in the forecast across many areas of the country. A large storm centered in the southwest will have a wide reach of effects from Southern California into the southwest, as well as the northern plains, with several showers and even a rumble of thunder. But snow will also continue through the mountains in Arizona, into New Mexico, as well as the Colorado Rockies, and then into southern Wyoming, Nebraska, and South Dakota. Some areas in South Dakota could see as much as 6 inches of snow. On the southern side of the storm, there'll be a strong cold front moving through the central and southern plains. This will cause strong to severe thunderstorms to form later this afternoon into tonight from northern Texas through Oklahoma into southeast Kansas and Missouri. These storms can contain heavy rain, gusty winds, large hail, and even a tornado. These storms will then continue to track eastward tonight in portions of Louisiana, Arkansas, and southern Illinois, as well as portions of western Kentucky and western Tennessee. Heavier rain will also form to the north of that in portions of Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. Rain in this area can lead to localized flooding with 1 to 2 inches expected. Meanwhile, another area of low pressure is moving eastward toward the middle Atlantic this morning. It will spread some rain and a thunderstorm or two this morning in parts of southern New York, down to Ohio, eastward through Virginia. A second round of rain will follow late in the day and tonight as another wave moves quickly eastward from the plains. That's the weather across America. It is going to be a warm day in Huntsville, Alabama. Despite clouds, we'll have a high near 80. In Bend, Oregon, there'll be plenty of sunshine and a much milder afternoon with a high of 67. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rinde.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A new $20 minimum wage for California fast food workers begins today. To make up for that loss in revenue, some restaurants will be cutting back on employees. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
California's minimum wage was $16 an hour for Ingrid Volario, who works at Jack in the Box. $20 an hour will help. But for Alex Johnson, who owns 10 Auntie Anne's and Cinnabons, it's not ideal.
I want to do right by my employees, and I want to pay them as much as I can. But this bill, AB 1228, has really hit our operations hard.
But he says the new law will cost him about $470,000 a year, and he'll have to raise prices.
We're no longer hiring. We're not backfilling positions. We're not growing in the state anymore. We're not expanding more locations. And I'm ultimately thinking about selling or closing my business.
UC Berkeley professor Michael Reich says in the past, wages went up and employment has not fallen.
Employers have had it very good. Profits are high in the industry. And so there's also room for them to absorb the wage increases.
I'm Julie Walker.
At least 7 juveniles were shot in a weekend mass shooting in Indiana. Correspondent Clayton Neville has details.
A gunfire erupted outside a mall in downtown Indianapolis Saturday night. Indianapolis Police Chief Christopher Bailey said a disturbance happened between a group of teenagers and preteens when shots were fired.
So we all have to take a collective look in the mirror and find out what more we can do to try to prevent these things from happening in the first place. But I will say this, it starts at home. That's the first place.
Police pleading with the public as the shooting happened with nearly 30 officers already stationed downtown.
It is extremely concerning to us that so many of our young people have been victims of gun violence this evening. So the ages range between 12 and 17 at this time.
Deputy Police Chief Tanya Terry said the shooting happened amid a spike in teen violence.
Officers in the area heard shots fired at Maryland and Illinois Street. When they arrived to the scene, they found a large group of juveniles. They also located 6 of them with apparent gunshot wounds.
A 7th was later taken to the hospital. No suspects have been named at this point. Police asking for witnesses to come forward with any video or tips that could lead to an arrest. I'm Clayton Neville.
In NCAA men's basketball, the Final Four is set. UConn will play Alabama, and North Carolina State is doing something they haven't done since the late Jimmy Valvano was coach. The call on Westwood One Sports.
Horn's second free throw is good. Inbound to McCain. His heave at the buzzer is no good. And North Carolina State's magical March run continues. For the first time since 1983, North Carolina State is going to the Final Four.
North Carolina State upset Duke University to reach the Final Four. They'll play Purdue University. Both games slated for Saturday in Glendale, Arizona. When we return, Biden's higher tax rate for businesses. America in the Morning, back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street's back at it this morning after the Good Friday market holiday last Friday, and it is Q2 beginning this morning. But a quick look at the first quarter, which is in the books. March and Q1, fantastic for investors.
An extraordinary quarter, an extraordinary 5 months with a lot of momentum. The advanced decline line in the S&P 500 has been strong. 70% of the stocks in the S&P are up in the quarter, 70%. That's a very good number. So you want that, and that's a good sign. People keep saying, oh, we have to take a break. We're up 10% in the quarter, of course. Well, when you have this kind of momentum, be careful about trying to do a lot of market timing. Generally, you're actually higher 6 months later.
CNBC's Bob Pisani. Americans split along party lines when it comes to what tax rate corporations should be paying. After Amazon was able to pay 0 in federal income tax for 2 straight years on billions in profits, critics said companies like Amazon that are using roads and streetlights and police protection and other services to do business, well, they should be paying for that. Amazon actually paid something in taxes finally in 2020, a 1% tax on its income.
President Biden, he wants to ratchet up the tax rate to 28%, where it was before President Trump lowered it in 2017 to 21%. The CNBC All-America Economic Survey showing 43% of the public want to keep it at 21% or even go lower. 45% want to restore it to 28% or go higher. So the poll's got a 3.1% plus or minus margin of error. That makes the issue a dead heat. There have been some articles suggesting that candidate Trump may want to cut below 21%.
CNBC's senior economics reporter Steve Leisman.
Adding routes and getting bigger. Spin the wheel. Which airlines is it?
It's Breeze Airways. It's just announced more new routes. It's a smaller airline, but the big guys, they're watching because Breeze was founded by the man who created JetBlue.
Dallas, Pensacola, Bangor, Maine, Lansing, Michigan, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So, 56 new routes. During COVID, a lot of the small and medium-sized cities lost their service. And so we're filling that gap.
Former JetBlue CEO and now Breeze founder and CEO David Neeleman on CNBC. On today's watch list, no big earnings today. We do have the latest on manufacturing for March coming, plus construction spending numbers. Tomorrow, the jobs data start coming. We get the JOLTS report on job opportunity and labor turnover. Wednesday, it's the ADP report on private sector job creation. Thursday, we find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week. Friday, it's the ever-important March jobs report from the Labor Department.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. It's 25 after. Among the stories we're covering next on America in the Morning, highway collapses, iconic hotel demolished. Back after these messages. We're back on America in the Morning. A portion of scenic Highway 1 in the Big Sur area of California collapsed, stranding about 2,000 motorists over the weekend. The California Department of Transportation said a landslide caused large chunks of roadway to fall into the ocean. The highway was partially reopened late last night. From neighboring Nevada, the end of an iconic hotel at the end of the Las Vegas Strip, closing its doors for good this week. The Tropicana Resort opened 66 years ago, quickly becoming the hotel where everyone from Hollywood elite to mobsters would go. The Tropicana being demolished to make room for a new baseball stadium for the Oakland A's. Thousands of items from the hotel are on sale on a liquidations website, from crystal chandeliers to artwork and guest room furniture. Thanks for checking in with us to start your day. America in the Morning for Monday, April 1st, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Crews work around the clock at the site of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. I'm Julie Walker.
The hot seat seemingly getting hotter for House Speaker Mike Johnson. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Federal Reserve Chairman says policymakers need better inflation numbers before they'll be ready to cut rates. I'm Jennifer King.
Hundreds of high-tech surveillance cameras are being installed in the city of Oakland to battle crime. I'm Norman Hall.
Meeting about Gaza, Israel, and the U.S. Today, we'll have details.
Two empires, new and frozen, led the box office this weekend. I'm Kevin Carr.
Enthusiasts are starting to travel to the best of total solar eclipse viewing sites. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Back after these messages. America in the Morning continues. On the look for severe weather today in the form of thunderstorms. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rinde.
There is an old saying, it is not wise to fool with Mother Nature. In this context, it means to pay close attention when severe thunderstorms are expected. Well, we have a powerful storm entering the Plains states today. On the southern side of the storm, there'll be a strong cold front moving through portions of the central and southern plains. This will cause strong to severe thunderstorms to form later this afternoon into tonight through northern Texas, into Oklahoma, into southeast Kansas and Missouri. These storms will contain heavy rain, gusty winds, large hail, and even a tornado. Some of these storms will even track into portions of Louisiana, Arkansas, southern Illinois, and even the western portions of Kentucky and Tennessee tonight. Heavier rain will also form to the north of that in portions of Iowa to Illinois and Indiana. Rain in this area could lead to localized flooding with 1 to 2 inches expected. This storm will also cause some rain and snow showers from portions of California into the southwest, with accumulating snow in the central Rockies into the northern plains from western Nebraska into South Dakota. Some areas in South Dakota could see as much as 6 inches of snow. Meanwhile, another area of low pressure will be moving eastward through the middle Atlantic this morning. It will spread some rain and a thunderstorm or two this morning in parts of southern New York to eastern Ohio and then eastward through Virginia. A second round of rain will follow late in today and tonight, with another storm moving quickly eastward from the plains. The southeast will have a calm weather day with largely high clouds spreading eastward from the plain storm. It'll be warmer in the afternoon with highs in the 70s and 80s, and that warm trend will also continue through parts of South Texas, where there'll be more sunshine with highs moving into the triple digits in a couple of spots. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rinde.
I'm John Trout. Remember, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Work begins to clear Maryland's Francis Scott Key Bridge, taken down by a cargo ship last week. As correspondent Julie Walker reports, that isn't the only bridge that's a major priority for repair, as closed structures across the U.S. highlight years of neglect.
Crews work around the clock at the site of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, some above ground, others in the water, including tugboats, barges, and a floating crane capable of lifting 1,000 tons. Still, metal pieces that are too big to be hauled away must be cut down. Maryland Governor Wes Moore was by the site Saturday.
The north sections of the Key Bridge are going to be cut up and removed. This will eventually allow us to open up a temporary restricted channel that will help us to get more vessels in the water around the site of the collapse.
He says the goal, clear out debris, rebuild the bridge. Meanwhile, when it's safe, divers will be back in the water for recovery of workers who lost their lives when the cargo ship, which said it lost steering, hit the bridge Tuesday.
There's still quite a bit of work to be done. 1 in 3 bridges across the United States need some sort of repair or reconstruction work.
Thousands of old bridges across the U.S. awaiting replacement or repairs after inspectors found them in poor condition. About 167 million vehicles travel daily over 42,000 bridges that are characterized as poor. An AP analysis found 4/5 of those have problems with substructures that hold them up, and almost 16,000 of them were in poor shape a decade ago. Marcia Geldert-Murphy with the American Society of Civil Engineers.
We have not maintained our infrastructure at the rate that we should for many, many years.
A recent federal infrastructure law is providing $40 billion for bridges over 5 years, but even that is far short of what's needed to make all the repairs. I'm Julie Walker.
The United States House Speaker is under increasing pressure to get a deal done surrounding more aid for Ukraine, but a group of Republican lawmakers continues pushback. Correspondent Clayton Neville's following the story.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene leading the way in the effort against House Speaker Mike Johnson. She went as far as to file a motion to vacate. Republican Congressman Don Bacon was asked on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday if he thinks Johnson could be ousted.
It's possible. I'm not going to deny it. We have 1 or 2 people that are not team. They're not team players. They'd rather enjoy the limelight, the social media.
Greene and others contend Speaker Johnson caters to Democrats, but other members of the GOP say pushback by a small group of Republicans is getting in the way of passing much-needed aid for Ukraine as its war with Russia continues.
Yeah, of course. Unfortunately, the Chaos Caucus has continued to want to stop everything that occurs in Congress. It's not as if they have an alternative plan. They're just against those things that are necessary. And they were doing this is necessary for national security.
Republican Congressman Mike Turner on CBS's Face the Nation.
Hakeem Jeffries, minority leader for Democrats, has made it absolutely clear that he will not join with rebels in the Republican side to take down Speaker Johnson on this. And I think we're certainly going to see broad support in Congress to get this job done.
It's certainly not a slam dunk that Democrats will vote to oust Johnson. Congressman Ro Khanna spoke with NBC's Meet the Press.
I would consider it under 2 conditions. 1, we get the aid into Ukraine so we stand up to Putin. And 2, let's get the $600 million to rebuild the bridge in Baltimore. I mean, I read somewhere it's going to take 3 years, 4 years. China would do it in 3 months.
The back and forth among Republicans seemingly having its continued impact on Capitol Hill. 5 recent departures from the House Republican Conference, significantly shrinking the already narrow Republican majority. I'm Clayton Neville.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says policymakers need better inflation numbers before they'll be ready to cut rates, but cuts are being planned. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
I don't think rates will go back to the very historically low levels that they were at before the pandemic hit. I do think rates will come down are likely to be lower than they are. At least short-term rates are lower than they were right now.
The Federal Reserve Chairman says policymakers need better inflation numbers before they'll be ready to cut rates.
We want to be more confident before we take that step.
Jerome Powell spoke at a conference of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco.
We expect inflation to move down to 2%, but on a path that is sometimes bumpy. So the question then is, are those just bumps or are they something more than bumps? Is progress on inflation going to slow for more than, 2 months? And that's a question, and honestly, we're just going to have to let the data tell us that.
He was asked about the latest report on consumer spending released Friday.
Core PCE, as you mentioned, is at 2.8% on a 12-month basis. Headline is at 2.5%. That's what we were expecting, and it's good to see something coming in line with expectations.
The central bank has signaled that it expects to cut rates 3 times this year.
Growth is strong right now. The labor market is strong right now, and inflation has been coming down. We can and we will be careful about this decision because we can be.
He demurred when asked if he would ever be ready to declare victory over inflation.
I don't want to speculate about that. We'll jinx it.
I'm Jennifer King.
Fears over legal immigration. Results from a new poll. AI meets the New York subway. And in sports, the Final Four is set. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. As they deal with crime that some call out of control and businesses that have to close their doors, Oakland, California is rolling out the deployment of hundreds of cameras. Correspondent Norman Hall reports that some are calling the measure an invasion of privacy.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says hundreds of high-tech surveillance cameras are being installed in the city of Oakland and surrounding freeways to battle crime. The 480 cameras can identify and track vehicles by license plate, type, color, and even decals and bumper stickers. The cameras will provide authorities with real-time alerts of suspect vehicles. But opponents say the technology infringes on privacy and will lead to further police abuse of already marginalized communities. But while crime has dropped in other big California cities, it has surged in Oakland, a city of roughly 400,000 across the bay from San Francisco. I'm Norman Hall.
5 people were wounded in Detroit when a fight broke out, and as correspondent Rita Foley reports, it all happened during an argument over a parking place.
It started with an argument over a parking space outside a blues club, say police in Detroit. Then somebody pulled a gun and started shooting. By the time it was over, 5 people had been wounded. Apparently only one of them involved in the argument, say police. The others were bystanders. All 5 were hospitalized in stable condition. The gunman drove off. No immediate arrests. Assistant Police Chief Charles Fitzgerald said 5 people get shot over a parking spot is just silly to me. He called the shooter a coward. Police are also looking into why the Blues Club was still open around the time of the shooting, since it doesn't have a city permit for extended hours, say police. I'm Rita Foley.
Americans don't just worry about migrants illegally crossing the border. Correspondent Donna Warder reports on a new poll surrounding legal immigration.
A poll conducted by the Associated Press and the Nork Center for Public Affairs Research finds that Americans are more worried about legal immigration and its impact on the country. About 40% of Americans surveyed say that when immigrants come to the U.S. legally, it's a major benefit for American companies to get the expertise of skilled workers. And 38% say legal immigrants enrich American culture and values. But both figures are down compared with 2017, when 59% said skilled immigrant workers were a major benefit to the U.S., and 50% said legal immigrants enrich American culture. 32% surveyed say there's a major risk that legal immigrants will commit crimes in the U.S. That figure was 19% in 2017. Donna Warder, Washington.
The United States and Israel are scheduled to hold a virtual talk today to discuss the Biden administration's alternative proposals to an Israeli military invasion of Rafah. Axios is reporting that the Israeli plans for southern Gaza have become a thorny topic between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Joe Biden. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is expected to lead the U.S. delegation, while senior advisors to Netanyahu will be leading the Israeli side. Rafah is the last remaining large city in the Palestinian coastal enclave under Hamas control, and it's also where many of the more than 130 Israeli hostages being held by Hamas are believed to be held captive. Netanyahu said over the weekend that Israel is ready to invade Rafah, as well as coordinate the evacuation of civilians there and distribute more humanitarian aid. The AP reports Palestinians say Israeli troops have withdrawn from Gaza's main hospital after a 2-week raid. Smart AI weapons scanners will soon be installed in New York subways after an incident with a gun last week. That story from Chuck Palm in today's Tech Report.
According to an article on TheVerge.com, New York City will soon start testing out technology that uses AI to detect guns at subway turnstiles. Evolve, a Massachusetts-based weapon detection company, has detectors that are used in schools and sporting venues all over the country. New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced the pilot last Thursday after an altercation at a subway station in Brooklyn where a man was shot with his own gun after pulling it on another passenger. Evolve's AI scanners use a safe, ultra-low frequency electromagnetic field and has advanced sensors to detect concealed weapons. In a statement, Evolve CEO Peter George has said that the scanners can detect virtually any type of weapon and have found bombs, guns, and large tactical knives. Evolve has come under scrutiny, facing the accuracy of its machines, as well as 2 government probes and a class action lawsuit. One school district voiced concerns that it failed to find knives in backpacks and identified lunchboxes as bombs. Leave a comment at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Big weekend in men's hoops. Sports with Robert Workman is on America in the Morning.
NCAA basketball tournament Sunday's regional finals in the South in Dallas. NC State rode its big man past Duke.
Burns on the left side, puts it up over Stewart. Good and one. DJ Burns may have just put an exclamation point on an NC State win.
The call from Westwood One Sports. DJ Burns had 29 points to lead the 11-seed Wolfpack to their first Final Four since Jim Valvano was running around the court in 1983. Meanwhile, at the Midwest Regional in Detroit,
it's going to happen, and it's time to boil her up and put the hammer down to Glendale, Arizona, for the first time in 44 years. The Final Four includes Purdue.
Thanks again, Westwood One Sports. Number 1 Purdue held off 2-seed Tennessee behind a career-best 40 from Zach Edey. Saturday in the East, top seed and defending national champ Connecticut routed 3-seed Illinois, and in the West, 4-seed Alabama fought off 6-seed Clemson. So Saturday's national semifinals in Glendale, Arizona will open with the Wolfpack against the Boilermakers, followed by the Crimson Tide and the Huskies. Half of the women's Final Four is set, and it includes an unexpected name as well. Also, NC State, the 3-seed knocking off top seed Texas to join undefeated South Carolina this weekend in Cleveland. The last 2 spots will be settled tonight. Baseball's opening weekend is in the books with 4 series sweeps all on the road. The Yankees took 4 from the Astros in Houston. The Pirates reeled in the Marlins 4 times in Miami, twice in extra innings. Brewers won 3 from the Mets, and the Tigers took 3 one-run games from the White Sox. Royals avoided a home sweep by hitting 5 dingers on Sunday to trample the Twins. Phillies rallied past the Braves for their first win. Angels picked up their first victory post Shohei Ohtani beating the Orioles. Cubs got 4 in the 9th to escape Texas with 1 win over the Rangers, and the A's got a walk-off walk to top the Guardians and avoid a 4-game sweep in front of dozens at the Oakland Coliseum. NBA, the Nuggets and Thunder win to clinch playoff berths, and the Mavericks end the Rockets' 11-game winning streak. That's Monday Sports.
Thank you, sir. Thousands plan gatherings for a rare celestial event. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. It's 5 till. This is America in the Morning, a hefty Easter basket haul for Godzilla and Kong. Kevin Carr has a look at the weekend box office.
The Titans ruled the box office over Easter weekend.
You feel like going for a ride?
Thought you'd never ask.
Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, pummeled industry expectations, earning $80 million at the box office. This is exceptional considering most pundits predicted only a $50 million opening, showing kaiju mayhem will bring out audiences of all ages.
What else were we wrong about?
This opening weekend is better than Legendary Pictures' last 3 Godzilla or Kong openings, and just shy of Dune Part 2's $82 million opening a month ago. Also like Dune, close to half of Godzilla x Kong's gross came from premium large format screens.
That's a call for war.
In a distant second was last week's other Empire release, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, with $16 million.
Who are people gonna call?
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
It's a steep drop, but understandable considering Ghostbusters and Godzilla targeted the same demographic. Dune Part 2 came in third with $11 million, and Kung Fu Panda was good for fourth with $10 million.
You finally met your match, chameleon.
Rounding out the top five was Sydney Sweeney's divisive horror flick Immaculate with $3.2 million.
It's a miracle.
After a robust March at the movies, April's box office looks to slow down before summer movie season starts in May. I'm Kevin Carr.
From Mexico to Canada and in many parts of the U.S., huge crowds of people are expected to gather in key spots in North America for viewing the April 8th solar eclipse. More now from correspondent Jackie Quinn.
Not everyone will get to see the full solar eclipse, says British astronomer Jake Foster.
You need to be within a very specific region known as the path of totality. Essentially, that is the place where the moon's shadow is passing over the surface of the Earth.
National Geographic says Niagara Falls, Canada, is one of the best viewing locations, and the mayor there has declared a state of emergency, expecting up to 1 million visitors.
Usually twice a year, the moon will come directly in between the sun and the earth, blocking out some or all of its light. And on the 8th of April, what a few very lucky people are going to be able to see across parts of the world is a total solar eclipse.
On April 8th, the eclipse will reach Mexico's Pacific coast in the morning and then cut diagonally across the United States from Texas to Maine and then eastern Canada by late afternoon. Foster warns it's dangerous to try to look at the eclipse without proper eye protection.
The sun's UV radiation is capable of destroying the soft tissue in the back of your eyeballs. It's not very nice. It can cause severe and sometimes permanent damage to your vision.
I'm Jackie Quinn.
A bright way to start your day. America in the Morning for Monday, April 1st, 2024. Our show is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.